Okay, we are back. Let's see if this works. Now, all right, guys, let's see if we have a better connection this time. All right, everybody's back in. So, we were just in the middle of discussing book clubs if you are introverted. And the first suggestion I had given is to do it with just your own children. No need to have a big gaggle of kids at your house. Oh, I'm gonna let people, there's a lot of people still joining. So let me give it a second. Okay, I'm sorry this is take two. I know some of you were already in here and we've been chatting for a little while. I am Mary at Not Before 7. So anyone who is just joining the conversation, I am talking about our book clubs that we have been doing this year for the Arrow and the Boomerang book titles, which you can find at bravewriter.com. So this is where I get all my book club titles. And if you go to my blog, you can actually look up book club. On the right-hand side, there's look up categories, and there's a book club category now, and you can look up the book clubs we've done. But sometimes people get a little overwhelmed with the thought of planning all that and discussing it with children and having all these kids in your house. So the first question I was answering is what to do if you're introverted. I'm very extroverted, so that does not intimidate me. And the first suggestion was to just do it with your own kids. Kim, who I haven't seen Purple Jack Mama in here, but Kim just did it with her own kids and surprised them with a set table for the book Poppy, and they had a great time. Didn't have to invite any other family to join them. And the second thought was to team up. Find 2 or 3 other moms, 1 other mom, and specifically try to find one who is more gifted in leading the discussion, who maybe feels more comfortable and inspired by that. Maybe they're more extroverted than you, and join forces. I have had friends come to things at my house and they have brought all the crafts they planned, the supplies, the food, the everything. They come a few minutes early, they tell me the plan, and then I actually lead the activity for them because that doesn't bother me. So you can team up with someone who gets energized and energy from leading something like that and help with the food and the prep work and all that kind of stuff. I was explaining before that in my Boomerang book club, it was not a requirement to host. And so 3 of the moms were unable to do that this year. They dropped their girls off at every book club. So I actually lead the discussion in all of those, and then we rotate the hosting. So I just show up at a house where another mom has done the food and the decorations and the atmosphere and all of that, and I just lead the discussion. So in that way, you can work with other people and everyone can bring their gifts to the table. And it doesn't have to fall all on one person. And I think that's the beauty of doing it together if you can, because you bring different things to the table that people like. So those are my 2 suggestions for introverts. Because you can definitely make it work and your kids can have a blast, either just alone or with maybe 1 or 2 other families. Let's see, the second question I get a lot, and Amy Matthews was in here earlier asking about where to get the ideas. Pinterest. Pinterest is a great place to get ideas. The internet, blogs, I just start searching. Now the hard part is you can't always search by the book title. Like you can't type in Poppy Book Club ideas. There's not always a book club that's gone on. I mean, these days, maybe Not Before 7 blog would come up, but I don't know. It's not all that popular of a Google search. So you can't just type in the title of the book and book club ideas. You have to think about the characters, the type of characters, some of the themes in the book, and that's what you need to type into Google. So for Poppy, typing into Pinterest, porcupine crafts, porcupine food, because Aerith is one of everyone's favorite character in the Poppy series. And so you look up something that is a character or a theme, and then you use it for your book club. I did the Mysterious Benedict Society. I could not find anything on the Mysterious Benedict Society, which was crazy to me because that seems like such a popular book. So I started looking up secret agent birthday parties, detective parties, secret code activities. So I had to come up with keywords about the book that weren't the book title. So I think that's the best way to find ideas, is think about the characters and the themes and what's going on, and then type that into Pinterest or Google, and you'll be able to find some great ideas that way. I know our current title here is Courage Has No Color. This is this month's Arrow selection on bravewriter.com. I'm really excited to read this one. This is a nonfiction book. I love it because it breaks a lot of nonfiction rules. The entire first chapter is in second person. So we've been having some great discussions about that and why the author chose to do that. But if I was doing this one as a book club, I might start typing in parachute parties. I might start something with military. World War II, I would start searching. All that kind of stuff. Parachute food. Yeah, all of that stuff I would type into Pinterest if we were doing this one. Now, if you are in North Carolina, in the central or eastern area, we were fortunate to discover that at Fort Bragg, they actually have a museum display. Okay, you just started it. We just started it this week. They have a museum display on the Triple Nickels. So we're actually going to have book club at the museum. I can't wait. Could it be done in a co-op setting? I think absolutely. If you want to use the Arrow or the Boomerang guides in a co-op setting, you would need to talk to Julie about that. If all the kids in the group actually, because I'm assuming the co-op meets weekly, maybe it doesn't. For a weekly co-op, if you wanted to use the guides for discussion or activities in there and you wanted all the kids to have done that and own one, you might like to ask all the parents to buy that. But I do think Julie has said in a scope before, Julie from Brave Writer, that if the person leading the class owns the guide, you can do activities in it, suggested activities, but you're not to give out like the copy work and all that kind of stuff. So the hard part would be you would just need to do some research to come up with what you want to do on week 1, 2, and 3 in class. Because obviously on week 4, you could have the big party celebration for the book, but it would be coming up for what do you want to do on the book in week 1, 2, and 3. A book like this, you could have a week that you spent just on World War II, that you could research and learn about World War II, and that would have to do with this book. If you're doing, maybe you are leading some discussion, you could have certain chapters need to be done each week and you could discuss them. We tend to just discuss one time at the end of the month for the Party School Book Club. And we just discuss the whole book. But you could get into more detail and discuss it week by week. I just do that at home with my own kids. But I think you could totally make it work in a co-op setting. And I would plan on week 4 being the Party School week. And if I was teaching in the co-op, I would assign parents things to bring for that party to make it a little easier. So I think you definitely could do that. In my book clubs, the Arrow book club has 7 girls, and it was 3 of us were using the guides at home. Now 4 of us are. And so they're doing it at home each week, the copy work. That's right, Party School. And then when we get together, we just do the celebration. So the 3 girls now who aren't doing the Arrow guide at home, they don't do the copy work. They don't get any of that from us. They just come and join in the discussion. And my Boomerang book club, there's 2 or 3 of us using the Boomerang guide. But so we're discussing it with our kids at home each week through that guide. But the other girls are just reading the book and coming for the discussion at the end. So, hello, Liz and Nilla. Liz, it's Liz on Facebook group. I have your scope on my list to watch when I'm done here. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm glad you scoped. I don't know if there are any other questions. I know in the past people have You can throw the questions in there if you have them. People have wondered how I gathered the group and found the kids to do it with. And that I did in the summer. It was different for each of the groups. With the Arrow Book Club, I started thinking about girls who were my 5th grade daughter's age. And I formed a group of 5th and 6th grade girls in my mind that I invited to the group that I thought would gel well. I tried to make sure each girl I invited had at least one other buddy in the group because that's really important at these ages. There probably was one girl in my Arrow Book Club who didn't know anyone else, but her mom I knew was using the Brave Writer curriculum, so I knew it would be, oh, that's a great question. I'll get right to that one too. I knew it would be a good fit for their family, and it's worked out well. She's gotten to know the girls. And in the Boomerang Book Club, I did the same thing, thinking through my older daughter and her friends, and emailed all the moms. With both book clubs, I chose the books and I emailed them out. And I said, these are the books we'll be doing. So it wasn't a choice. Because it's a key component in my curriculum for the Arrow, those were already set by Julie. And in the Boomerang, I selected ones that I thought were appropriate. And I was leading the discussions. So no one seemed to really be too concerned about the titles. They were really excited that their girls would have a book club to be a part of. So there wasn't a whole lot of debate on the titles. Is everyone? No, everyone's not doing the Arrow and the Boomerang. So that I do in my own home, and the party school is just at the end of the month. The requirement is that you've read the book, and that's it. So what they do in their own home is kind of up to them. A lot of families have become Brave Writer families because of it. My friend Jessica, I haven't seen her in here on this scope, but she has now purchased the Arrow guides and is following them too from one of the book clubs. All the girls are homeschooled. I don't think that would need to be a requirement. In fact, in my Boomerang book club, half of that group will go to high school next year. Some will remain homeschooled for high school, and others, I know of at least 2 who are going to high school. And I was even thinking, gosh, I love the group. I would love to extend to their parents, because that older group meets on a Friday night, that they could continue if they want to keep those relationships with their homeschool friends. I think that would be fantastic. And in my Arrow book club, we actually meet during the day, Thursday afternoons at 2 o'clock. So that would be hard if you weren't homeschooled. We may transfer them to a Friday night when they get into 7th and 8th grade, and then maybe that will work. But I don't think everyone would have to be homeschooled. Just read the book. Somebody asked if there's an order to the events. There's not necessarily an order. I have found for my Arrow book club, my 5th and 6th grade girls, that I tend to let them eat while we are discussing. They're a little younger and they're a giggly group. I think they're mainly all second-borns in there, maybe 2 firstborns. Either way, it shouldn't necessarily matter. I mean, birth order is only a little sliver of who you might be as a person, but they're all that kind of more excitable, creative, and giggly. Some of that age, maybe some of it birth order. But I find that if they're having their snack, we have a better discussion because everyone kind of has something to eat and do. And then we do their craft. Though when I just did my Love That Dog, we actually did a craft first, and then we ate and had our discussion, because at the end I had poetry activity I wanted them to do. But I do find doing the discussion earlier is helpful, because that way you kind of have the craft at the end. If they do the craft first, sometimes they get off task a little bit. In my 7th and 8th grade girls, we always have our discussion first, sometimes with the food and sometimes we eat after the discussion. It depends. We've always done a movie for the 7th and 8th grade girls. So until this month, actually, there's always been a movie based on the book for them to watch together. So my Arrow girls who are doing the Arrow guides, these guides that Brave Writer releases are for 3rd through 6th grade. So anywhere in that range, I think you could host a book club and it be very effective. My daughter's in 5th grade. So I chose to do 5th and 6th grade girls, just looking at her age and the girls she hung out with. that made the most sense for our purposes. And for my boomerang guides, the boomerang guides are actually for 7th through 12th grade, which is a huge span. So if you do Brave Writer, you may have noticed, I don't think Lord of the Flies is one of her titles this year. Maybe it was, because it wasn't, it was one of the newer guides. But I did not follow the book she's doing for this school year. I selected the titles I wanted, and I bought the individual guides for them, because this is such a huge range that I wanted to focus on titles appropriate for 7th and 8th graders. She actually sells a collection called A Pouch of Boomerangs, and they're perfect. They're actually handpicked for 7th and 8th grade. But we had read some of them, so I just went through and handpicked titles I wanted to do, and I left a month for short stories, and I left a month for Shakespeare. So I picked the grade levels according to just the kids that my kids were hanging out with and how it worked. Starting next year, I will have a son enter 4th grade, and I don't think I'll do a book club for him quite yet, though I have volunteered to do one at his co-op. Somebody asked about a co-op setting, but our homeschool group only meets once a month. So I offered with some friends to do the boys book club next year, but they're only meeting once a month. So that'll help me dive into doing this in the world of boys, which will be totally different. I have a 1st grader, Kara, but I haven't done a book club with them. I did a lot of party school from the time I started homeschooling. Hi, Lindsay. So when my oldest was in 1st grade, we got together with some families every 3 weeks, but we were doing it around geography, not literature. And we did do crafts and food and all of that kind of stuff. And it was a co-ed group. So when my oldest was in 1st grade, we did do that sort of stuff. It just was all around geography. I mean, you could party school to any theme you want. So for a 1st grader, because their books tend to be shorter, I mean, they're not reading. I mean, you could read out loud a huge chapter book and get together and do some fun stuff, but I would just keep it shorter. I would keep it maybe 45 minutes to an hour and very hands-on. So we used to do like 3 crafts and food. We actually did oral presentations at that point too, but I don't do that with any of my book clubs right now. So I would totally do it with a 1st grader. I'm just kind of spent right now, and so I'm waiting until they get a little older because it is a little less crowd control. But my 1st grader actually is in a book club at our homeschool group once a month, and they do like a theme, like winter, and they read a bunch of winter books, and they do winter crafts and activities and stuff like that. So that would be a great idea. And I don't know if while I was answering that question, somebody else asked one. But yeah, boys will be a whole different ball game. That beautiful tea party I did, that'll be interesting with boys. They are like little ants. How long are the parties? Okay, my Arrow book club is an hour and a half. And I think that's pushing it for those girls. So they sometimes, when we finish early, they love to have the last 15-ish minutes to just play, run around, make videos. If it's nice weather outside, they go running. That's what they want to do. Because the discussion for that group, 15 minutes is probably about right. You might be able to push 20 depending on the group of girls. This particular group of girls, 15 to 20 is what I aim for, though the entire book club's an hour and a half once we do our activities and stuff like that. For my Boomerang book club, the 7th and 8th grade, we meet for several hours because of the movie. So the actual book discussion is 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. And then if we're watching the movie, we're sometimes together till almost 10 or after. Some of the movies have been longer. We did not watch Anne of Green Gables because it's over 3 hours, and I thought that was pushing it. So instead, they made Anne of Green Gables bookmarks, and depending on the age, that might be fine. If that's the Arrow Book Club, the younger guys, Swampy Joe, you need to put your name in there. I'm assuming maybe it's Joe. I'm just forgetting if I know. I'm sorry. I get so flustered on Periscope. I forget. Oh, that's another good question, Cass. 55 minutes might be great since you're meeting 4 times, because the last time you could just do the party part and discussion, and the times before maybe you throw in some crafts and all. So 55 minutes, Melissa, might actually be good, since you're meeting more often. Cass just asked Cass, what did you just ask me? Put it in there again. I can't believe it just went right out of my head. I'm sorry. I do get really flustered on these things, but I know you just asked a good question. Oh, the arrow discussions. No, you know what? That is the difference. The arrow doesn't have discussion questions. Now, it has great discussions about the copy work each week. And every now and then, that has been an appropriate discussion to bring into book club. For example, right now, in Courage Has No Color, week 1 has a great discussion about opening hooks, which is a wonderful discussion to have in book club. So I will bring that. I am actually leading, I just had to think a second. I'm leading the Courage Has No Color book club. So I will bring that and we'll talk about how this author pulled us into and hooked us into this nonfiction piece right from the beginning. And the interesting thing is the entire chapter 1 of Courage Has No Color is written in second person, which isn't typically the rule for nonfiction. So there's an entire discussion in there, and I will go ahead and bring that to book club. That does not happen all the time for the arrow guides, because sometimes the selections, I'm looking through this one, like I'm not going to have a discussion on the use of the M dash at book club. That's not going to be, we typically wouldn't do the grammar. But sometimes the activity at the end is appropriate. And in Love That Dog, at the end, it was poetry activity, and I actually just grabbed the entire week 4 activity, and I used it for my discussion at book club. So it kind of depends on the guide, but no, you can't count on it. I've had to go do a lot of my own research on the computer. Scholastic.com has some good discussion questions. I've started to find some general ones that all the kids like to answer, like were the characters likable? Who would you most like to be friends with in the book and why? Is there a character you would not want as a friend? So over time, I've started just developing a list of some good go-to questions. Opening hook is always a good one for any book. How did the author grab our attention at the beginning? But it is a little harder sometimes with the arrow guides. Like this one, the writing activity at the end is giving oral reports. And depending on the moms you were doing it with, you could decide if that was something you wanted to pursue at book club. We probably won't. But the boomerang guides, actually, every boomerang guide, that's one of the big differences. Are these ideas on my blog? I can give you my blog, yeah. The boomerang guides have think piece questions in the end. So I definitely pull from these for our discussion, as well as any of my own I come up with. For Lord of the Flies, I've just ordered the Cliff Notes and the Spark Notes and all sorts of stuff to educate myself. And a lot of times I just get inspired by some of the things I'm reading and learning about when I'm trying to study the book a little, because I do read all the books with them. So, oh, that's great. Sarah Mackenzie, is that Read Aloud Revival? Is that Sarah Mackenzie? If someone would type her site into the comments, that would be great. I don't have my discussion questions on my blog, but you can definitely find the party ideas, the food and the themes and all that kind of stuff. There you go, Read Aloud Revival. And I probably should make a list of some of the general ones I've come up with that I've used at several book clubs that the girls like to do. I mean, my daughter even the other day was like, are you going to ask us which character is likable and who we'd like to be friends with? For some reason, they really like answering that question. Oh, good. Amongstlovelythings.com. That's Sarah McKen. Yes. Okay. That's her other one. Oh, you're welcome, Dana. I hope you'll give it a try. It really has been fun. And again, it doesn't have to be every month. And oh, that's what I was going to show you on Facebook. It isn't always as big as the ones that people have seen me scope about. when we first started this, it has evolved into something bigger. I think we started inspiring one another and everyone started getting more and more excited about it. But one of our first book clubs was Flora and Ulysses. I'm looking up. We have, oh, this was something I was going to mention. The way we organize the book club is I have Facebook groups, private Facebook groups for each of the clubs. I'm getting low battery notices, so I will move into my kitchen. So once moms agreed that they wanted to be part of the book club, I actually invited them to a private Facebook group. Woo! Okay, having to move part way. And in the private Facebook group I put in all the dates, the events, in as events. So everyone can go into the Facebook group and they can see all the events coming up with the book clubs and the title and the dates. And it's been a great way to organize it. I highly recommend making use of Facebook for something like that. But this was our book club on, okay, here's the one on, sorry, I'm always shutting cabinets on my scopes. I'm going to be like the cabinet shutting lady on Brave Scopes, because I feel like I'm doing that every time I get you guys on here, is I have to go, shut all my kitchen cabinets. And now I'm on mute. Okay. Whew, I'm all over the place. Okay, there we go. Now I have you guys up on a canister. This was the Flora and Ulysses, and you can see this was a much more simple layout than we've evolved into. So we just had kind of a nut theme food table here with trail mix and there you go, little fall decoration, and we just had trail mix and acorns and popcorn for the kids to have. And then for their craft, what they did is they made superhero t-shirts, which I thought was a great idea, because in Flora and Ulysses, the squirrel is like a little superhero. And so the girls just worked with fabric paint and markers. That was a great craft. They still really enjoy that. So it doesn't have to be all the ideas you see and find online. It can be shrunk down into something that maybe sounds more manageable to you. So Cass, I think you asked me online for the Flora and Ulysses ideas, because back then, gosh, isn't that funny? I wasn't scoping. I've only been scoping not all that long. And I think we did that one in October. So I wasn't scoping at that point. And yes, that was Flora and Ulysses for someone who was asking. And the one we did before that, How to Eat Fried Worms. And the girls did not care for that book. So it was not the most exciting book club. But this was Flora and Ulysses and the shirts they made. So that's an idea for that book. That was a great book. I hope your family's enjoying it, Cass, because we just loved it. So I guess that's everything, unless you guys have any other questions. Yeah, it's such a fun book. That was a really good one. That's a fun one to start with. So definitely, and that's what I mean when you're searching Pinterest, you're not going to find a whole lot if you type in Flora and Ulysses. But if you type in like squirrel activities or nut snacks, nut treats, squirrel treats, that kind of stuff. And then the other theme we picked up on was superhero. So you could do a lot with a superhero theme as well. So I think that's everything. Unless you guys have another question, feel free to pop it in there. Yeah, you know, I thought the fried worm books was so funny, but my girls just found it gross. My boys liked it, though. Oh, good. I'm so glad, Melissa. I'm glad it's helpful to you guys. I'm happy to share that. It has been such a fun year. A lot of evolving and growing for me, too, as we just kind of dove into this. And it has been so much fun to see what it's become. And it has been really fun to watch so many of you guys try it and then post your photos and scope your own parties, because it's really just inspired me even more to add more and try some different things. And I have loved seeing some of the ideas. It's hard though, because a lot of times I'm seeing a party someone did after I have, and I see ideas and I think, oh, I would have loved to have done that part of it. So it has been a lot of fun. I'm glad you guys are trying it. My kids have come upstairs from Lego time. So thanks everybody. I think I'll go ahead and take off for the night. And feel free anytime. My email is also just notbefore7@gmail.com. So if you ever need anything, you can find me on Facebook or just email me directly, and that's fine. So thanks for tuning in tonight, and I hope I answered a lot of the questions. And thanks for all the hearts and snowflakes and stuff flying up. You're welcome, Kara. Good luck. I can't wait to see if you post something about doing something with your first grader. That'll be a lot of fun. Children
color hearts are there?
Oh, I forget how many color hearts there are. There are hundreds. All right, have a good night too, guys.
Turn the camera.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah, there you go.
We'll just face it
Hey, Kayla.
at the kitchen. Really interesting.